Alone in the junkyard, it was always cold in the junkyard. Metal scraps, broken machines, and sharp wires covered the ground. The sky above was dark and dusty. Giant factory towers puffed smoke all day. Nobody came to this place, except her. She was small. Thin arms, dirty feet, big purple eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. Her skin was pale blue and her clothes were torn and too small. No one knew her name. She didn't remember it either. Everyone just called her that alien girl. She had been living alone in the junkyard for weeks, maybe months. She didn't know. Time didn't matter. Only food did. Each night she searched the piles for scraps. Sometimes she found half-eaten food. Sometimes she didn't. On really bad nights, she chewed on rubber wires just to feel something in her mouth. She didn't talk. Not to people. Not to herself. Not even to the broken robot she kept close. Just a busted head and one glowing eye. She called him Blinky. One night, she was too hungry to sleep. Her tiny stomach growled like an angry engine. Her legs shook, but she stood up anyway. She had to find food. She crept to the edge of the junkyard where the metal fence had a hole. Beyond it was a big food station for the factory workers. Loud, crowded, dangerous. She waited for the lights to go dim. Then she ran, fast and quiet. She slipped into the back alley and searched the trash bins. She found a piece of bread, half-eaten, moldy. She didn't care. She grabbed it. "Hey!" someone shouted. She froze. A human worker saw her and started running. Big boots, heavy steps. She turned and ran, through mud, under pipes, over broken crates. She jumped back through the fence, scraped her arm, and fell onto the junkyard floor. She crawled behind the pile of broken panels and hugged Blinky close. The man didn't follow. He just shouted, "Filthy alien thief," and left. She didn't cry. She never cried anymore. But that night, something strange happened. When she woke up in the morning, there was food next to her. A wrapped protein bar. Real food. Clean. Warm. She looked around. No one there. She sniffed it. Bit it. It tasted like heaven. The next night, again. This time a hot drink in a thermos and a small blanket. She stared at the items. Who? Why? She looked up at the tall junk tower beside her. Nothing moved. Every night after that, she found something new. A small pillow, a piece of fruit, clean water, even a soft jacket. But no face, no name, just gifts in the dark. She started to trust the shadows. One night, she left a broken button next to the blanket. Her way of saying, "Thank you." Days passed. She started feeling safe. Warmer, less hungry. She even started humming when she hugged Blinky. Then came the bad night. Rain fell like glass, cold and sharp. The wind screamed like machines breaking apart. She waited under her sheet of metal, hoping. The food would still come, it didn't. No thermos, no fruit. Nothing. She waited again the next night. Still nothing. Something was wrong. She stood up. Her feet sank into the mud, but she didn't care. She crawled out of her hiding spot and followed the old path through the fence. But instead of going to the food station, she turned toward the old shack at the far corner of the junkyard. It was made of metal and wood, held together by ropes and wires. She had never gone there before. Smoke came from the chimney. A soft yellow light glowed inside. She crept closer, slowly. Through a broken window, she saw him, a human. Old, gray beard, one metal arm. He sat at a table, working on a robot's leg. Sparks flew as he welded pieces together. On the table were scraps and empty wrappers of the same food she had been getting. It was him. He was the one. She didn't speak, but she stepped forward and made a tiny sound. The man turned. His eyes widened, but not in anger. He stood up, looked at her, looked at the rain, then stepped back and opened the door. She took one shaky step forward, then another. Water dripped from her nose. Her hands trembled. She whispered one word. Safe? The old man nodded once. Yes. She stepped inside. He handed her a towel and pointed to a chair. That night she sat by the heater with a warm blanket, hot soup, and Blinky by her side. For the first time she smiled. For the first time she slept without fear. The kind stranger. Junkyard looked different in the morning light. For the first time she wasn't cold, she wasn't hungry, and she wasn't alone. Pippa. That's what the old man had started calling her. Just like that. Pippa, he said while handing her a clean shirt 2 sizes too big. She didn't know what it meant, but she liked how it sounded. Soft, safe. The old man didn't talk much, but he moved gently, never fast. He had a metal arm that clicked sometimes when he picked up tools. His face was full of scars, but his eyes were kind, tired but kind. His name was Thomas. Just Thomas. No one had ever given her a name before. And now, 2 names in one night. Hers and his. The shack he lived in was small but filled with strange things. Robot parts, blinking lights, rusted gadgets. Old photos too. One showed a much younger Thomas in a military uniform, smiling with humans and aliens beside him. She stared at it for a long time. Thomas noticed. That was before, he said, before people started fearing things they didn't understand. Pippa didn't know what to say, so she didn't speak. She didn't need to. Thomas never asked questions, not even once. Instead, he gave her space. A small blanket on the floor, beside the heater, a cup of warm broth in the morning, a broken robot arm to play with, and something else. A little yellow droid with one blinking eye. Meet Nib, Thomas said, setting it beside her. Nib beeped twice and wobbled like a puppy. Pippa laughed, a short, dry sound. The first laugh she'd made in years. Over the next few days, things got better. She helped Thomas sort wires and collect scrap from the junkyard. She learned how to clean metal using vinegar and heat. And she started eating real meals, bread, beans, sometimes even sweet jam from a tin. One evening, Thomas found her drawing on a metal panel with chalk. She had drawn a girl, small like her, with glowing eyes and a robot friend beside her. Thomas looked at it and said, "Looks like a hero to me." She didn't know what hero meant, but the way he said it made her feel warm inside. But not everyone was kind. One day, while Pippa was helping near the fence, 2 human workers walked by. They stared at her. "That the alien brat from Sector 4? One of them said. "Should have thrown her off planet. Filthy things don't belong here." Pippa froze. Her hands clenched. Old fear came rushing back. Thomas stepped out of the shack and stood beside her. "You got a problem?" he asked. "Yeah," one worker growled. "She's illegal. This whole place will get shut down because of her." Thomas didn't flinch. "Then let them come. I'll be waiting." The men scoffed and walked off, muttering. That night, Pippa didn't eat. She just sat on the floor, hugging Nib. Thomas placed a hand on her shoulder. "You didn't do anything wrong," she whispered. "I shouldn't be here." Thomas shook his head. "No, you should be here. You matter, Pippa." Her eyes filled with tears, but she wiped them away fast. "I'm not strong," she said. Thomas smiled faintly. "You're stronger than most grown men I know." The next morning, Thomas made a big decision. He walked into town, something he hadn't done in years, and filled out a guardianship petition. He wanted to adopt Pippa. Make it official. No more hiding. No more fear. But government systems don't. Move fast. And sometimes they move in the wrong direction. 2 days later, Thomas got a message on his old comm screen. Petition denied. Reason: alien minor. Unauthorized race. Subject must be surrendered to Outpost Medical Center for genetic review. He stared at the screen in silence. Pippa watched from behind the curtain. She didn't need to read the words to know something was wrong. Thomas turned off the screen, walked to her, and sat down. "They want to take you away," he said softly. Pippa looked at the floor. "I'll run," she said. "Far. You won't get hurt." Thomas didn't answer. Instead, he picked up her small hand, covered in grease and chalk, and held it in his. "No one's taking you. Not while I'm breathing." And in that moment, even though Pippa was still scared, she felt something new. Hope. Because the kind stranger wasn't just feeding her anymore. He was fighting for her. Trouble from the colony. Early one morning, the junkyard silence was broken. 3 loud knocks hit Thomas's shack door. Bang, 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 Pippa jumped. Nib beeped in alarm. Thomas stood slowly, his old boots creaking. He looked through the cracked monitor linked to a rusty camera outside. 2 colony enforcers, and a man in a black coat. Not good. He opened the door with a calm face, but his metal hand twitched behind his back. "Thomas Gray?" the man in the black coat asked. Thomas didn't answer. "We received a report. You're harboring an unregistered non-human minor." Thomas's jaw clenched. "Her name is Pippa." The man didn't blink. "That alien child is illegal. She must be removed for planetary processing. She will not be harmed if you cooperate." From behind a curtain, Pippa listened. Her hands tightened, around Blinky. Her breathing got faster. Nib rolled beside her and gave a soft beep. Warning? Comfort? She didn't know. Thomas took a step forward. "She's not a thing to process. She's a child. She's property of the Department of Biodefense," the man replied coldly. "A rare genetic species, possibly dangerous. She's 10. Your adoption was denied for a reason." Pippa couldn't take it anymore. She ran out, placing herself between Thomas and the men. Her eyes glowed slightly, more out of fear than power. "I won't go," she yelled, her voice cracking. The man in black finally looked at her. For the first time, his expression changed. Just a little. Not fear, not kindness, just curiosity. "She speaks," he muttered. Then he pulled a small metal device from his coat. It beeped and scanned the air near her. Pippa screamed and held her head. The scanner buzzed louder. Thomas grabbed it and threw it across the yard. It exploded into sparks. "That's enough," Thomas growled. "Leave." "You just assaulted a government tool," the man warned. "Then come back with a better one." The enforcers took a step forward, but the man in black raised his hand. "Not yet," he said. "Let's allow the old man his final days. He won't hide her forever." They turned and left, walking back through the junkyard gate. Later that night, the shack was dark, quiet. Thomas sat by the table, tools untouched. Pippa sat across from him, knees to her chest. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You're in danger because of me." Thomas didn't look up. "Danger's nothing new. But I'm not worth it." His head snapped up, eyes sharp. "Don't ever say that again." She flinched. "You hear me, Pippa?" he said. "You're not a burden. You're not trash. You're not some experiment." He stood, opened a drawer, and pulled out an old photograph. It was a picture of a young alien girl. Silver skin, yellow eyes. She was smiling beside a small, human boy. "My sister," he said. "She wasn't human either. They took her too." Pippa's eyes widened. "I swore if I ever had a second chance, I wouldn't let it happen again." He leaned down and looked her in the eyes. "This time, I won't fail." The next day, Thomas began working like never before. He cleared out the deepest corner of the junkyard. Under layers of rusted panels and old engine blocks, he revealed something hidden. A trap door. It led to an old bunker, long forgotten. Dark, dusty, full of silence and shadows. Thomas cleaned it out, set up solar lights, stored food, water, blankets, even rebuilt a small power generator. "This is your safe room," he told Pippa. She nodded, not smiling, but not scared anymore. He also gave her something new, a small silver ring with a green stone. If anything ever happens, he said, press the stone. What will it do? She asked. Call for help. The kind most people don't remember I have. But someone else was watching. At the edge of the colony wall, a young factory worker was sending a message to someone off-world. His eyes glowed, faintly blue. He wasn't human, and he wasn't sending just a warning. He was sending coordinates to Pippa, and to a group that didn't want her studied. They wanted her eliminated. The secret of her species. The wind howled across the junkyard like a lonely song, but deep underground, it was silent. Pippa sat in the small bunker Thomas had prepared. The soft glow of solar lights made the place feel cozy, almost like a real home. She drew on a metal sheet with chalk, sketches of stars, robots, and a girl with glowing eyes holding hands with a man with a metal arm. But her hand suddenly trembled. For days now, her body had been feeling strange, hot, then cold. Her fingertips would spark softly when she touched metal. Small machines around her buzzed or blinked without warning. One night, Nib rolled over to comfort her. She reached out and, without meaning to, powered him off just by touching his head. She stared at her hand in shock. Something was changing. Thomas noticed too. He walked into the bunker carrying soup, but paused when he saw sparks dance across, a wire that wasn't plugged into anything. Pippa looked up at him, worried. I didn't mean to, she said. It just happened. Thomas knelt beside her. Has this happened before? She nodded. A little, but now it's getting stronger. Thomas looked at her, his eyes unreadable. Then he stood and said just one word. We need answers. The next day, Thomas made a secret journey through the junkyard tunnels. He met with someone no one else knew existed anymore. Dr. Mila Wren, a retired alien doctor who lived in a hidden chamber beneath the colony. Mila was once famous until the government labeled her a sympathizer for treating non-human patients during the war. When she saw Thomas walk in with Pippa, her eyes widened. She's one of them, she whispered. One of who? Thomas asked. Come, Mila said. We must scan her. Inside the dusty lab, Pippa lay on a table as soft blue light passed over her body. Mila stared at the readings on her cracked monitor. She's not just alien, the doctor said. She's from the Morellian lineage, an ancient race thought to be extinct. Morellian? Thomas repeated. Mila nodded. They weren't warriors, they were machine-bonded, born with the ability to sense, control, and merge with technology. Thomas's eyes widened. That's why she's affecting power units, activating bots without touch, Mila sighed. During the War of Systems, the Morellians were hunted down. Humans feared their power. But she's just a child, Thomas said. She doesn't even know how it works. That doesn't matter, Mila replied. To some, she's still dangerous. She's living proof that Morellians survived. Pippa sat up slowly. Am I bad? Mila turned to her gently. No, little one. You are rare, special. But that makes you a target. Thomas clenched his fists. They'll never stop coming, will they? No, Mila whispered. Not unless she learns how to protect herself. For the next few days, Mila began to teach Pippa in secret. Simple exercises first, touching small, broken machines and focusing, feeling the hum, feeling their language. To others, they were dead metal. To Pippa, they were sleeping creatures waiting to wake up. She learned to fix lights just by feeling the wires. She made broken doors slide open with a glance, and when Thomas accidentally dropped a heavy box, she raised her hand instinctively, and the box stopped in midair. Even Mila gasped. She's stronger than any Morellian I've studied. But with power came fear. One night, as Pippa slept in the bunker, Thomas sat with Mila near the fire. She could become a symbol, he said. Hope for both sides. She could, Mila agreed. But right now, she's just a child. Thomas looked toward the floor. Then I'll make sure she lives long enough to grow up. Just then, the bunker's warning alarm beeped. Thomas ran to the screen. A ship had landed, Unauthorized. Lights scanned the junkyard. Footsteps echoed. They were back. Not colony guards this time. These ones were darker, heavily armed. Quiet. Not here to arrest, here to erase. They come for her. The stars above the junkyard disappeared behind a black shadow. A silent ship floated down, its body sleek and sharp. No logos, no lights, no sound. It didn't belong to the colony. It belonged to people who didn't ask permission. People who didn't leave warnings. People who didn't take prisoners. Inside the shack, Thomas stared at the motion sensors on his screen. Red dots, 4, 5, 6 armed soldiers moving fast, surrounding his home. He tapped a hidden switch under the table. Bunker locked. Silent mode engaged. Down below, Pippa was deep in sleep until the light above her bed turned blue. She sat up fast. Nib rolled beside her and beeped 3 times. Emergency signal. She pressed the green stone on her ring. Nothing happened. Then a new voice spoke through a dusty speaker hidden in the wall. Pippa, listen carefully. Don't come up. I'll handle this. It was Thomas. She ran to the monitor. The camera feed showed him stepping outside, metal arm glowing with a low hum. He looked small under the towering soldiers in black armor. Pippa's chest tightened. No. Outside, Thomas stood firm. The leader of the strike team took off his helmet. A cold-eyed man with thin lips and pale skin. Where's the girl? Gone. Thomas lied. Vanished, weeks ago. You're lying. Thomas didn't flinch. You've got no legal grounds. We don't need legal. The Morellian bloodline is a Class 0 risk. One wrong move and she could reprogram our entire defense grid. She's too dangerous to leave alive. Thomas's metal arm lit up fully now. The glowing lines ran across his knuckles like blue lightning. I was in the war, he said quietly. I've seen real monsters. He raised his fist. She's not one of them. Suddenly, boom! A stun grenade hit the shack wall, knocking Thomas back. They weren't here to argue. They were here to kill. In the bunker, Pippa cried out. She slammed her fists against the wall. Let me out. She felt something hot in her chest, a vibration, like her blood was humming. The lights in the bunker flickered. Nib beeped wildly. Then her fingertips started to glow, not like before. Brighter. Sharper. Alive. She raised her hand toward the steel wall and whispered, Open. And the wall, solid steel, thick as a tank, peeled back like soft cloth. Above, the soldiers marched toward the shack but stopped. The air buzzed. The junkyard metal began to tremble. Machines that hadn't moved in years started to rattle. Robot parts blinked. Broken drones lifted off the ground. She was coming. From the bunker hatch, a light burst into the sky. Pippa rose from below, her body glowing faintly, her hair floating as if caught in an invisible wind. Thomas, bleeding and gasping, looked up. Not safe, he mumbled, but she had no fear now. The strike team aimed their weapons. The leader shouted, Stand down or we fire. Pippa didn't speak. She raised her hands slowly. Every machine in the junkyard came alive. Broken mining bots. Old security. Turrets. Crushed loaders. Even Nib, now floating with a small cannon extended. The soldiers opened fire. The bullets never reached her. Metal swirled up like a shield and blocked them all. Pippa's eyes shined bright white now. She whispered, You're not taking me. The ground split beneath the lead soldier, dropping him into a pit lined with sharp cables. The others ran, but the machines followed. Thomas struggled to stand. Pippa, stop. She turned to him, breathing hard, glowing like a small sun. He limped forward, cupped her face in his rough, burned hands. Don't lose yourself, he whispered. You're not a weapon, you're a child. Her glow began to fade. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't mean to. Thomas hugged her tightly. I know. By morning, the junkyard was silent again. The strange ship was gone, destroyed. The soldiers defeated or captured by the very machines they had once laughed at. Pippa sat beside Thomas, bandaging his arm. Her hands still shook. I was angry, she whispered, and scared. Thomas looked at her with tired eyes. You had every right to be. But you still chose not to kill them all. That's what makes you better. She nodded slowly. But deep down, they both knew the truth. That was only the beginning. Now the galaxy would know she exists, and many more would come. A new family fights back. The junkyard was broken, craters in the dirt, smoke rising from crushed bots, burnt metal scattered like bones after a storm, and in the middle, a child and an old man. Thomas sat in his chair, breathing heavy, bandages around his arm. Pippa rested nearby, curled under a silver blanket, fast asleep, her skin still glowing faintly from the energy inside her. Thomas looked out the window. He knew what came next. The first attack was never the last. The next morning, he stood at an old terminal in the back of his shack. It hadn't been used in decades. Thick wires, rusted keyboard, a cracked screen. He plugged in a dusty drive and typed slowly. To anyone who remembers me, Thomas Gray, I need help. Not for me, for a child, one of us. They're coming for her. I won't survive the next hit alone. He pressed send. Then he waited. Across the stars, far from Earth's forgotten colonies, old warriors looked at the message and paused. A cyborg mechanic once rescued by Thomas from a death mine powered up her ship. A desert trader from the Drakesand species dusted off his armor. A blind sniper with an AI-linked rifle whispered, "It's time." The call had been heard. The man who had once saved so many was calling in his favor. 3 days later, just as the new attack ship arrived in orbit, 5 small vessels entered the colony's skies. Fast, dirty, unlicensed. They landed in the junkyard like comets crashing into steel. Pippa stepped out of the shack, eyes wide. She saw aliens, humans, robots, all different, all strong, all looking right at her. The tall Drakesand bowed low. You must be the girl. Pippa nodded slowly. You're not scared? He grinned, showing sharp teeth. We don't fear stars like you, little one. We protect them. Together they built defenses. The cyborg mechanic reactivated broken mining mechs and rewired them into war machines. The sniper climbed the tallest junk tower, linking her rifle to an ancient satellite still in orbit. The trader set up traps made from old colony tech, invisible barriers, autopulse mines, sonic fog grenades. Pippa, in the middle of it all, learned fast. She didn't want to hide anymore. With Mila and Thomas's help, she practiced control. One night she levitated 20 bolts at once. Another she synced with a damaged hoverbot and flew it like a bird. Then she stopped an energy blast mid-air with nothing but a whisper. But on the 7th day, the sky opened. They returned. The black ship this time was 5 times bigger. No silent landing. No sneaking in. They came with noise. They came with fire. They came with war. The junkyard lit up. Flak cannons hidden in towers fired first. One enemy dropship exploded before hitting the ground. Pulse mines fried another squad mid-jump. The sniper took down 3 soldiers before they even saw her, and Pippa, she stood on a platform of floating scrap, her hands glowing like small suns. The enemy's machines jammed. Their shields collapsed. Their helmets cracked from the inside. She's disabling their tech, the sniper said through her headset. She's learning faster than we thought, but the attackers were relentless. One heavy mech reached the bunker's door and blew it apart. Thomas was pinned under rubble, bleeding. Pippa, he shouted, run. But she didn't run. She floated. She hovered above the flames, arms wide. The machines behind her rose too, like an army of metal angels. And she spoke. This is my home. These are my people. You will not take me. You will not break him. Her voice echoed through metal, through fire, through memory, and then light. A wave of power blasted out, not to destroy, but to disable. The attackers fell. Not dead, but done. Their weapons powered down. Ships dropped like stones. Mechs froze mid-swing. It was over. When it was done, Pippa dropped to her knees. Thomas crawled to her, held her face in his calloused hand. You did it. he whispered. She shook her head. We did it. He smiled. That's my girl. But above them, far above the clouds, another signal had been sent, a message that the Morellian was not only alive, but awakened, and others, far worse than soldiers, had heard it. Humanity redeems itself. The battle was over. The junkyard was silent again, but not empty. Burned metal still steamed in the morning sun. Crushed ships lay like fallen beasts. Yet among the wreckage, life moved. Children peeked out from colony shelters. Traders returned. Old workers, once afraid of the alien girl, now walked past her and nodded with quiet respect. The same men who had once whispered, "She's dangerous," now said, "She saved us." Pippa stood on a rooftop made of welded panels. Wind tugged at her coat. Her hair danced in the breeze. She looked up at the sky, still glowing, but not with warships this time, with hope. Inside the shack, Thomas sat in his old chair, bandaged but smiling, a mug of steam in one hand. Nib in his lap, beeping softly like a purring cat. Across from him sat a colony official, younger. Nervous, the man placed a data pad on the table. "We've reviewed everything," he said. "There's been a change." Thomas raised an eyebrow. "She's no longer classified as a threat. She's been granted full protective status." "And?" The man gulped. "And you're now her legal guardian." Thomas leaned back and smiled. "Took you long enough." Later that day, the colony governor herself came down in person. Surrounded by press and drones, she stepped in front of Pippa, who stood quietly near a half-built bot. The cameras rolled. "Pippa of the Morellian line," the governor said. "You showed us what courage looks like. You reminded us what family means." She paused, then bowed. "For that, on behalf of humanity, we thank you." Pippa blinked. No words came. Just a small, shy smile. Thomas placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're not a secret anymore," he whispered. "You're history now." Within weeks, everything changed. The junkyard became a training ground for peacekeepers and bot engineers. Mila was offered a position in the colony's science council. The small bunker was turned into the Pippa room, a safe haven for orphaned alien children. And Pippa? She kept growing. Her power didn't fade. It evolved. But she never used it to fight again. She used it to build, to repair, to teach. One evening, as stars lit up the sky like diamonds, Pippa sat on a platform above the junkyard. Beside her, Thomas rested with his eyes closed, humming an old song. Nib rolled lazy circles nearby. The stars shimmered. Pippa pointed to one. "That one's blinking." Thomas opened one eye. "That's not blinking, kid. That's a ship." She frowned. "Another one? No, this one's different. It was small. And it didn't come alone." More ships followed, big and small, alien and human, some old, some brand new. They weren't coming with guns. They were coming with gifts, supplies, books, energy cores, letters from children across the galaxy. Pippa opened one of the messages. "Dear Pippa, my planet didn't believe aliens could be kind. But now we know better. You gave us proof. Thank you." Tears touched her eyes. Thomas grinned. "Told you. Sometimes humanity just needs a second chance." The next day, Pippa stood before a crowd at the colony square. No longer the dirty, scared alien girl from the junkyard. She wore a new coat. Her face was calm, her voice clear. "I was once nothing," she said. "A stray, a secret, a mistake." People watched, breathless. But a broken old man gave me food, a name, a home. Her voice cracked slightly. "And now you call me hero. But I didn't win this alone. I didn't fight to destroy. I fought to protect." She paused. "To protect someone who chose to love me when no one else did." She turned to Thomas. He just tipped his head, too proud to speak. Pippa faced the crowd again. "So now I make a promise. Wherever someone is cast aside, human or alien, I'll be there. I'll find them. She smiled. Because someone once found me. And from that day forward, she wasn't just Pippa the alien, she was Pippa the bridge. Between species, between fear and trust, between war and peace, and humanity, once feared across the stars for its violence, was now remembered for something greater, for raising a child not of their blood but of their heart.